Online homework number 2, I'm going to be doing the odd numbers, leaving the evens for you. The first problem we have is in standard form. I recognize that because I can identify A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 6, and C is 13. Now the formula that I'm going to use to help me get started is negative B over 2A. And for this equation, that would be negative 6 over 2 times 1, which is negative 3. Now what that tells me is that x equals negative 3 is the axis of symmetry. So I can draw a line through negative 3, and somewhere on that line will be the vertex. To find the vertex, I have to substitute negative 3 into the original equation. To do that, I'm going to take negative 3 and substitute it into the equation wherever there was an x. Negative 3 squared is 9. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18, plus 13. 9 minus 18 is negative 9, plus 13, or 4. If we put these two numbers together, the first number we found was negative 3. The second number we found was 4. That is where the vertex is located. I'm going to put a dot for negative 3, 4. Now I have two ways I can proceed from here. Either I could start to create a table of values with negative 3 at the center and the neighborhood of numbers around that, and try to figure out what all of these other numbers are. However, I'm going to use a shortcut. The a value in this equation is 1 because it's 1x squared. When that happens, the points follow along a pattern of increasing odd numbers. Since I know it's up, the next dot is going to be up 1 and over 1 on both sides of the axis. Then the next point is going to be up 3, 3 being the next odd number. Up 3. If I were to continue, I would go up 5 and over 1, then up 7 and over 1. I would be using odd numbers as I go. 5 points is really the minimum I'm looking for. It creates a nice graph. So we're going to connect it with a nice smooth curve, the best we can do. Let's look at number 3. This is a different form of the parabola. This is what we call vertex form. I should be able to read the vertex right off the equation. There's two places my eye goes. One place it goes is right here to the plus 3. And a second place my eye goes is to this minus 3 right here. Now the number that's in there with the x, I'm actually going to use the opposite of that. So even though it says x plus 3, my vertex is going to be at negative 3. The number at the end is the y coordinate of the vertex. It is going to give me the y, which is also negative 3. So the opposite of what you're going to see in there with the x, and then the actual number that you see at the end. Those two form the vertex. If I go to negative 3, that puts the dot down here. We already used the shortcut. Let's use the shortcut again. We're going to go, since the a value is negative 1, we're going to go downward instead of upward. You see this negative in front? This makes it a frowny face, a sad face. But since it's negative 1, the rule is still to go by odd numbers. So I'm going to go down 1 and over 1 on both sides. I'm going to go down 3 and over 1 on both sides of the axis of symmetry. There's my 5 points. Connect them with a nice smooth curve, the best you can do. And there we go. Notice how I put arrows on the end, because that graph really does go on forever. Number 5, which is the most likely equation for the graph? First thing I've got to do is I've got to read the vertex from the graph. Where is the turnaround point? Well, it looks like it's at 3, 5. So since it's at 3, 5, I will be looking for the opposite number to 3. I'll be looking for a negative 3. Okay, so it could be A and it could be D. But then the number at the end, the 5, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So the answer is going to be A. We're going to write the vertex form equation of each parabola. To do this, we're going to use a technique called completing the square. So the first thing we do is we write the y equals. We rewrite the equation, except after the x, we're going to put a space because we're going to fill in that space. Now, what number completes the square? There's a formula. It's b over 2 squared. E value here is negative 14. So take half of negative 14 and square it. Half of negative 14 is negative 7. Negative 7 squared is 49. That's the number that completes the square. So I'm going to add that right here. But I can't just add 49. I've unbalanced the equation. And I don't really want to add 49 to the other side of the equation. I want it to stay as y. So the only other choice that I have is I've got to take away 49 from the same side of the equation. What I've written there in black, plus 49 minus 49, adds to 0. Therefore, I haven't changed the value of the equation. Y equals, now the first three terms, x squared minus 14x plus 49, will factor into a perfect square. It's an easy factor. You put in half of negative 14, so it'll be negative 7 square. And then the last thing is 42 minus 49 will be negative 7.
Oh, figure it out. I'm going to use all the power of my brain.